Welcome to the Touch of the Tropics podcast, episode 1. Today we have our director Jules with us. She's here to discuss the Singapore Garden Festival. And this is a podcast where we're going to talk about all things landscape. We're going to talk about plants, we're going to talk about trends, and we're going to do it from our garden centre, Touch of the Tropics. So let's get straight into it. Here we are on the Touch of the Tropics podcast, finally.
Hello, my son.
This has been a long time coming, so we'll get straight into it. Our talking point today, what we're going to discuss, the Singapore Garden Festival.
The Singapore Garden Festival 2024 this year was from August the 3rd to the 11th, and it was a really prestigious event to be invited to, actually. Yeah.
What did it take to actually be invited? Could you just put your name down and be in, or what was the
So the criteria is that you're always asked to come to the show. So way back in October, I was invited to the Singapore Garden Festival. I then had to put my application in, or my dossier or credentials, or what I'd won previously. So one of the criteria is that you had to win a Best in Show in New Zealand before you were even asked to attend the Singapore Garden Festival, which we did in 2018. Yeah, we got Best in Show in Jules' garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So little bit of background on that. All through my high school years, we competed in Ellerslie. Well, I was a teenager just helping out, but Mum never quite got that Best in Show. So in 2018,
we came close, didn't we?
It was a big deal to get that.
Yeah, Best in Construction, People's Choice Award as well. So we had some really cool things happening in 2018. Unfortunately, New Zealand hasn't had another show, which is a real shame for the Kiwis here.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to Singapore, so October approximately they invited me. I had to then go before a committee. Just even though you're invited doesn't necessarily mean that you're accepted. Then I think I heard in January that it was a real thing, it was going to happen. And from there, it happened very fast. We had to, get our plans in place, submitted in February of what we're doing. So it was an 8x8 plan, and everyone had the same thing, incidentally, which was creating nature and community within the tropics.
Well, let me just go off a few bullet points here. The importance of creating something unique. What was the importance for you to create something unique at the show?
Well, it had to be community based. It had to have an element with nature in it. The whole sustainability issue, recycling issue was taken into account as well. And we were in the fantasy division. There were 6 international designers in the fantasy division. So fantasy, well, fill your boots really on that one. Straight away, I kind of did some research, and I honed in on the dragon, and I saw a dragon reflection in the water, and it had a 888 motif, and from there I created the stand that we saw, and got gold in Singapore. So the whole inspiration for the garden was the dragon. And if you imagine sort of going like a number 8 through the middle of the show, and everything was mirror imaged from there, it was very, very cool. And I came up with the idea of the caves because I wanted to cocoon the design, so that when you went into the design, you felt that you were in something really special. In all my designs, one of the main elements that I really focus on is that you can walk through my garden. That's easier said than done, of course, as we found out, right?
Yeah, a little bit of riffing off that. I think there was only a handful, maybe 2 or 3 displays in Singapore that year that you could walk through. So we were in the minority there, weren't we?
It really takes something to do a display, because most of the displays you actually look at. You've got one focal point and you're looking at the garden that's been designed. But in ours we had a 360 all the way round. We had up the top, and walking through, so you basically had to have everything perfect inside and out, which put a lot of pressure on us, didn't it, really?
So you've got your design,
Yep.
you've created your design, you've been selected, you're now in there. What
Yep.
happens next? You've got...
So mid-March, there was a recce trip to Singapore. We packed our bags and we went over with 12 other international designers. It was very new, a lot of new things for me, just travelling for one. I hadn't travelled for so long. And then we learnt about the climate. We did trips to find out what plants we could use, and it was good to do. You had to do a recce trip, yeah.
Had you selected your team at that point yet?
Yes, I had.
You had?
Yes.
Okay, yep.
So going back a fraction, James, good point, James. We were all given implementing partners. So the implementation team is someone that actually helps you through the whole process. They are sponsored by NParks, and there was 12 teams through Singapore that would aid you in doing your design. So that was a peculiar process, because it was like throwing your name into a hat and getting the implementing partner that you thought was well fitted to your design. And so I chose Limelight Productions, because I knew I had a lot of hardscape to do.
Yep.
And they'd done a lot of work with Disneyland and Jurassic Park. So, I'd seen some of their work and it was amazing. And the caves that they did was just outstanding.
Yeah. Right, so you got your team, you got your implementation team. Now, from the get-go, this is something that I can say, when you first got the opportunity to do Singapore, you initially reached out to me and a bunch of others here at Touch of the Tropics and said, I want you to come help us.
I did.
Come help me. Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
So it wasn't just building a team of people from Singapore, it was also assembling a team in New Zealand.
Yeah. I just know my team. I've been working with my team. We've done some pretty special things. So I knew they had a lot of Corten steel. We got sponsorship through Corten steel in Australia. And so, and I knew the implementing partners hadn't done that before. So, and then we had our own sort of Kiwi touches too. So that's why I extended the invitation to my boys. And then, of course, it became more of a family thing, didn't it? My daughter Elena came, my partner Marty, he was there. And then we had a couple of extra staff from Touch the Tropics that I knew would work really well with us. So we ended up having 10 of us, which was a little bit of a costly experience. But it worked really well. I don't think we would have got where we were without our team there. Yeah.
So you've mentioned straight curve, garden edging.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the process of getting that product there, how that even worked.
Yeah,
Where
well,
did we start
there
with
was
that?
a lot of back and forward with finalising the plans. Initially we had the plans drawn up from someone in New Zealand, and when I went back they changed the criteria on April the 1st, and I actually went back to them and I said, are you doing an April Fool's job on me? Because now we've got to do increase upcycle and recycle and more sustainability. That was worth more points. So because of that, I changed my plan a little bit. So when I went back to the Kiwi guy to render it, re-render it, they'd shifted on, they'd moved on. So Singapore picked it up. They did some design work, and in that design work we had to basically put so it was just when we hit the road running, everyone knew where the Corten was going, the profiles and everything, so we did that using the Singapore people. But with the products we had, the straight curve actually ended up coming from China.
Right.
And with the delays, it was a lot to organise. We ended up air freighting it. So you can imagine that was a cost, quite a cost. And the Kiwi side of Straight Curve, Shane helped us out with the freight costs there, and myself as well. We went halves. So there were a lot of unusual things that I'd never done before. Actually, I had to get the Cosmic Portal from the US over. That was it was a bit of a headache. to say the least. But I got this beautiful design cosmic portal, which really was the heart of the whole display. But the time frame, he was 12 hours behind, and Singapore was 4 hours behind. So I was waking up about 3 or 4 in the morning just to do emails back and forth. And finally, when they actually, I was just like, I was very tense and uptight that the portal was going to get there on time because it was stuck in customs and they wouldn't release it. Evidently the name had been written down wrong instead of a company. It was an individual. That wasn't my guy's fault. It was the fault of the freight company had incorrectly put that on, so it incurred a huge cost of $2,500 extra, which we weren't expecting. So there were things like that came up that were obstacles that we just had to get over, shell out the money and move on, and ended up that cosmic portal was just amazing, wasn't it? It was just...
I'll admit
yeah.
that I thought initially that the cosmic portal was a big waste of money and time and effort. But I tell you what, when you're in the heart of battle, which we were, and you're looking at all these other displays coming together around you and you're getting intimidated by that.
Yeah.
When that portal came out and we turned it on, it was like...
Oh, and it just changed the energy, eh?
Here we go.
The energy, it just brought in something that was, I can't really describe it. When those lights went on, everything changed. We were just getting hammered with it was like 38 degrees. I was in constant, I could not stop the water running off my face. It was so hot. And we were waiting a long time for the caves to arrive. There was some problems logistically getting them all in there and then getting them all the right way. And by the time we got those in place, we were way behind in putting it all together. So that was a huge pressure in itself. But once everything was in place, it just, bam. It was the old Kiwi spirit and working long hours, into the night. How many hours were we working a day on average?
12 hours a day.
Yeah, and sometimes stretching to 15. So that was, and then we'd clamber back to the motels and just fall asleep, and then you just do it. We had 8 days to get that display, and so we lost about 3 to 4, would you say, just getting the caves in. So it was a bit of a dash.
I remember there was one point where you said just the idea of finishing was going to be enough.
Yeah. I think it was day 6. We thought, will we finish?
Yeah. I actually, come to think of it, I think that moment really helped me come to terms with we just got to do our best. Took a lot of pressure off, because before it was like, we got to win.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like, we just got to finish. And there's something mentality-wise that I benefited from, because it was just the idea of finishing was like, if that's the goal, and then obviously things come together, and they did.
I'm super glad that I went in the end with the white caves. Like initially,
there you go.
I wanted to go with grey because grey was safe, and who does white caves with holes in anyway, But it was a fantasy division.
Yeah.
And so what happened was the white caves ended up reflecting all this light, and it was quite beautiful. And Lexi, you did quite a bit of work around the lighting with that, and it ended up being like an avatar, which is what I wanted incidentally. But it was, with the cosmic portal, the lighting was just incredible. It really made it, didn't it?
I think, speaking on behalf of Lex, there was a moment there where the lighting was just kind of all over the place. And there was like purple, yellow, green. Felt like we were in Las Vegas, but like the Flintstones version of Las Vegas. And when we dialed it right back and we let the
white caves do their thing.
The white caves, and when you had the lighting hitting the plants, it was doing that Pink Floyd thing where it was shooting rainbows off the plants. And there was the term psychedelic thrown around. But it wasn't super psychedelic, it just had a way. It just came together.
Going back to the white caves again, there was quite a bit of significance with the white caves. The whole name that I named the display was Portals to Paradise, and so we had 2 portals either side, but there were holes or portals all through the caves. So if you type in AI, what's the significance of white caves with portal holes through them, it means enlightenment. If you also type in the dragon, the significance of the dragon also means enlightenment. So we had this scenario where we created quite a beautiful, serene, stripped back, natural display. It was so beautiful to be with. And don't forget the soundtrack, right?
The soundtrack, yes.
The soundtrack just gave it that extra dimension. It was like another dimension that we added to all the layers of significance, because there were a lot of meaning to what I did. With the core 10 was gave us that really quick display and defined the lines, gave it a nice neat finish around the edges too. But getting back to the soundtrack, do you want to talk about the soundtrack?
Yeah, the soundtrack was produced by Will Henderson, who's a friend of ours, and he incorporated elements of New Zealand, really.
Yeah.
Some Māori instruments, ancient Māori instruments, and he'd done it in sort of a meditation type format. This long, sprawling song.
22 minutes long.
22 minutes, yeah.
So with the soundtrack, James and I actually ended up singing in it, which gave it another dimension altogether, didn't it, son? And he started, I harmonised. He started again, I harmonised under him. And so that was, I think, there were lots of different elements. There was a heartbeat, there was endangered species, New Zealand birds in there, and the beautiful interstellar kind of, feel to it as well. That was the word I was looking for before. But yeah, that was called Singapore Lights, J.Carbon, under Touch of the Tropics, if you want to have a look at that.
Yep.
I think that will be the most amazing thing I've ever done with you, by the way. Yeah.
Yep. So we've got the song, we've got the display now, we've got the team helping us there, we've got the Kiwis over there, we've got the extreme heat, we've got the time pressures, and we're almost done with this episode. So we get to the end of completing this amazing display, and then we await the judges. Now, tell me about the judging and how that sort of how that made you feel and
three
what
international judges, one from France, England, and United States. It was like, scary. So we don't know what people are looking for. We hope that we've kind of nailed the brief. You can only do your best. In the fantasy division, it's a little bit more flexible than just the landscape division, of course. But yeah, they judged it, and they really loved it. And of course, they awarded gold. So there's only been 3 golds throughout the whole New Zealand Golds, by the way, since it started in its entirety in 2006.
Wow.
So that's something for I can rest in my rocking chair and think of later on in life that I actually got that, because we were really up against it to, at one stage to even complete it. So I was so happy with that. And when he announced it, Dennis announced it, he made out that I was going to get a silver, so it was a real surprise to get a gold. I was absolutely delighted. You guys were on the plane.
Yeah, we were on the plane.
Waiting. Yeah.
So Mum was drip feeding me the awards as they're coming in.
Yeah.
Island silver. And when she said that, my heart sank, because if you'd seen the Irish display, you'd understand that it was like, whoa, if that got silver. Yeah,
it was really tough judging in our criteria. There were 2 golds awarded, and then 4 bronze awarded. And boy, that was tough on those other designers. Yeah, the Chinese
garden who would sort of, you spend 10 days around these people and you get to know them, and to see her get bronze, I was very, very surprised. Very shocked.
So that just goes to show you how tough it really was to do that. Yeah.
My gut feeling when we got on the plane was I felt like we were going to get silver. It just felt like we had to finish really, really well, and almost duck our heads at the end of the running race.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. Yeah.
And it just felt like, did we get that?
Yeah.
Did we get that dip right? Did we beat the clock?
I tell you what, it was, judging was 8 o'clock. I went in we had a leak, and the leak was like osmosis that went up through the corten and took out the whole circuit, or one of the circuits. So I came in with 20 minutes to spare on the day of the judging, realised what's going on. There's no water feature, where are the lights, the cosmic portal's a different colour. So I was frantically ringing you guys that were just about to go onto the plane to try and bring it back and sort it all out. That was the most intensive part of my life I've ever had. We finally got it over the line, and then we got the whistle and had to get out of there. The judging was on, so it was like I was on tenterhooks all day. Yeah. So it wasn't till, I think the next day, wasn't till the next day that we learnt who got, the golds and where we were placed.
We were getting on a flight, and I think it was... We're almost...
Oh, no, it was the same day.
We're almost
it was
in
the
New
same
Zealand
day.
from Singapore when we found out.
I think the most incredible part of my life was going in to see Green Fingers in Singapore. I made a really good friend, Sean. He let me have some of his personal collection. I ended up doing or buying a lot of epiphytes and putting them on the Tree of Life, which went over the portal. That for me to do that, that was my highlight in making that Tree of Life from scratch, from chicken netting to putting the bark on the side to creating like this facade that there was a tree. It lived, it died, but it still lives with the epiphytes and the orchids, the air plants all dripping off it, and that just is like a life cycle in today's world. How we leave our mark on the earth is really important. So it had a real theme about it, that garden. It was a very cool garden, portals to paradise.
Yeah. My highlight was finishing.
Well, that's been honest.
That was definitely
but
my
we finished
highlight.
strong. We finished strong. Our workmanship was supreme.
Yeah. What's next for Touch of the Tropics? What's next for you?
I'm going to write a book.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I'm going to write a book. I'm looking into that at the moment. I've done 4 golds and through my whole career, and I think I hold the record for 3 People's Choice Awards. Here at Touch of the Tropics, there's display gardens. We've got combinations of tropical plants at work, and I think I have a pretty good. I've been doing it for 20 years, tropical gardens. I have a pretty good palette now that I work with. So I want to share my my knowledge. I'm also a horticulturalist.
All right, well, we'll finish up there. So this is episode 1 of the Touch of the Tropics podcast. Now we're going to reach out to people in the industry. We want to create something here. We want to create a space where people can come. We can talk about the industry. We can talk about plants. We can talk about all things related to landscaping, show gardens, planting,
plants,
even materials that
horticulture.
we use. Yeah, horticulture, everything. So stay tuned. This is going to be first, I hope, of many.
One of many. Yep.
Stay tuned for more, and thank you for listening in, and goodbye.
Thank you.